Andrew, thanks again for coming to talk to us about the Australian report. One of the key facets that seems to have come out in the study is the value of support for churches. Those that have it seem to thrive in varying levels, whether it be financial support or prayer support. Those that have deliberately courted support have made the gains. Before we get on to a very specific discussion of that, can I ask about the role that support played in you and Kathy establishing EV Church? Did you have a load of support, or did you find that there was a lack and that actually held you back in areas?
Yeah. First thing to say, the stats don't show those with support thrive. I think there's a small increased growth from support, significant, but we're talking, instead of 50, you're 60 or something
Sure.
like that. So it's
Well, there's an advantage to it.
there is, absolutely. And I don't mean that's insignificant. It is a significant advantage, but we mustn't, in the Australian scene, to thrive is to go from 60 to 70.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
I think it's those realities need to be borne in mind. When we started, we were very blessed. We had I was part of a network of people who were very interested, very engaged and supported. I met with a group of men every month to just have an accountability, a prayer support, help me think through issues. That was phenomenal. The church that I was most recently at gave us financial support and other helps. All of that was massively significant. And it meant we never had any sense of being alone in the work, except insofar as leadership and running the work is lonely. There is just a reality that you're having to make the calls and all sorts of stuff. But, we always knew outside of our world there was this friendship that was a great help and support to us. So I never, there was lots of sleeplessness, lots of pain and so on, but never despair. And I had lots of perspective to bring to bear on it all. And I think we're seeing the statistics. People who have had experience in planting previously, people who have got right expectations as they come into it, all of that helps improve the outcomes of church planting and conversion and attendance. So we had all of that going for us as well. And it is a huge blessing, and we've got to help young guys and women, husbands and wives as they plant. We've got to help them have good support and have right expectations, which is partly my concern to make sure that we don't cast the results of numbers of converts and numbers in church negatively. We'd love to see the same results as we're seeing in America, absolutely, and pray for revival and all kinds of pouring out of the Spirit. But the reality is hard. As friends talk to me all, they're ploughing concrete. It's dry soil. But when you know that and you're confident that God will still bring about his fruit and build his church, you press on with great confidence, and that's that ability to have reality with confidence is infectious amongst a group of people.
Does this affirm your commitment, I guess, to prospering networks like Geneva?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. People can do it on their own. The Apostle Paul, what kind of network exactly did he have as he went out? He built networks, didn't he? But, of course, people have gone into countries on their own, and God has blessed and grown the work. But we are made by the gospel for fellowship together in the task that's hard. And I think it's a gospel thing that causes us to come together. But there's actually outcomes that are improved by being together as well. I guess I want to hold those two, actually, that we're together because it's the nature of the gospel to be in fellowship as we do our work. But it actually helps the work too.
When you look at, say, counselling some of the church planters that you counsel, how do you talk to them about ensuring that they are drawing on the support that they can have?
Well, partly the fact that I'm talking to them is them drawing on the support. They're actively engaged in a coaching relationship that they want as well. Partly I'm regularly asking questions about how they're doing, how they're tracking, how's their wife going, what's their relationship like. and so looking for signs of despair and hurt and frustration and depression, so that I can encourage them to see ways of dealing with that pain and grief that they're feeling, which includes unloading with others and sharing the burden with others. And it's not always sufficient, though you might wish it were the case, it's not always sufficient to imagine that you can do that within the church. I think we've gone through swings here where an earlier generation didn't look for friends in church at all, but found their friends outside of church. The generation I've come through with reacted against that and said, no, your friends should be in church. I think there's a wise recognition that it isn't easy to have friends in church simply because you're the leader pastor. And sometimes the friendships make it hard to say the words that need to be said. And sometimes it leaves you open to betrayal. And, the person who's becoming a friend in a church plant leaves. That's gutting. So you need to develop relationships that become friendships, yes, in church, but you need them outside as well.
In the broader Christian community, that's how you
Yeah, amongst peers particularly, people who know and understand your lot. The nature of church planting and the kind of leadership involved in that activity is a unique one. It's not the only one, but it is in itself a unique thing. And to have people who know what you're going through, who can readily understand and experience things with you is a huge help and a great blessing. Yeah.
One of the great joys of actually being involved in the Geneva Push Network, just from my perspective, has been watching people who we were many years ago, or 6 years ago now, encouraging to come together, actually now forming their own networks with each other. You find out they've been talking on their own.
Yeah. Which is exactly that's why Geneva's a network. It is flourishing to be a family of people where relationships over some years have nurtured and been developed and come together. And that's what we've wanted to see amongst us all, which is just a gospel fruit. It's the shape of the gospel amongst us. Yeah.
Well, I just want to finish on one particular point, turn it around the other way, if you like. Not so much the church planter, but the people who are looking to support church planting. It is a small statistic, but there are, the studies reveal that those actually can get support like, not just financial support, but even like accounting support and things like that larger organisations can offer. That is a way of them being involved in church planting without actually planting the church itself, but supporting it. Do you see that as a role for larger churches or things like that?
Yeah, it is interesting in the research, isn't it, that those church plants that had, say, their accounting done outside of their context by another church have improved growth rates and conversion rates.
And how do you explain that?
Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise, should it? Because as a planter now, I'm freed up to actually invest in the relationships and all the front-end life rather than having to do the back end in the back room somewhere. And yeah, look, the more we can do that as larger churches with smaller churches, it's a huge blessing. We find here it doesn't add much to add in a couple of other small church plants into our accounting processes. But it's a huge blessing to them. And I'd urge established churches to be adopting other congregations, plants, to do this kind of work with them for sure.
Well, all of the support is borne out in the report. We're going to be talking more about the report to come, so I guess we'll save more for the next conversation.